Welcome to an Echo of the Past channel. I am Jan Žižka of Trochnov, the undefeated Hussite leader and the greatest badass of the Middle Ages. Today, I'll tell you the story of how I built the most terrifying army of my time from a simple peasant and taught all of Europe to fear the name Blind Devil. Prepare for a bloody adventure filled with flails, chariots, and immeasurable hatred for the enemies of God's truth. I am Jan Žižka, and I was born around 1360 in Trochnov, in Bodanik region, as the son of a small landowner, Žižka. My name was already destined for me. Žižka means scar, and believe me, I have given and received more scars in my lifetime than anyone else. My father was a poor but proud nobleman who already in my childhood drilled two things into my head: never give up and never forgive. I grew up with a sword in my hand and a hatred of nobility in my heart. I saw the nobles and priests oppress the common people, stuffing their bellies while the peasants starved. As a youth, I served various masters, learning to fight. I was a mercenary, a bandit, a soldier, whatever it took to survive. The world was cruel, so I became crueler than it. Somewhere around 1410, I lost my right eye in some sort of skirmish. Maybe it was a tavern brawl, maybe a fight with bandits. Instead of weakening me, it just made me angrier. A one-eyed wolf is more dangerous than a healthy one. He has less to lose and more to prove. I started wearing a black eye patch, which gave me an even scarier look. When I heard the sermon of Master Jan Huss, something awakened in me. Finally, someone was telling the truth about the corrupt church. Huss spoke to my heart, not as a nobleman to a subject, but as a man to a man, and I knew I would fight for this truth. July 1415, the day my anger turned into hell on earth. Master Jan Huss burned as a heretic in Constance, even though he had an imperial gloss. The damned betrayed him, deceived him, burned him like a dog. And at that moment I said to myself, Žižka, now you'll show them what justice is. Imagine me standing on a hill, looking towards Constance, a one-eyed, scarred warrior who can feel the blood boiling in his veins. They want war, I thought. They'll get it, but a war like they've never seen before. I joined the Hussite movement, but not as a peaceful believer. I was a warrior, and I brought them war. I began to organize the defense of the Hussite communities against the Catholic invaders, and I immediately saw that traditional knightly tactics were obsolete. An armored knight on horseback, nice target for a crossbow, heavy cavalry charging in line, perfect target for a chariot rampart. I started experimenting with new ways of fighting that would put those cocky knights on their ass. My men were no courtly knights with silk scarves. They were peasants, artisans, paupers, but they had something the knights lacked. They had something to fight for. They fought for their faith, for their freedom, for their country. The first small victories taught me that fear is the best weapon. When the enemy hears the name Jan Žižka, he is already half defeated, and I did everything to make my name feared from Prague to Rome. July 1419, the day we showed Prague that we wouldn't stand for their shenanigans. I led a procession of Hussites to the new town hall where the Catholic constables sat and made fun of us. Bad idea. When they refused to release our prisoners, my anger overcame me completely. "Throw them out the window!" I shouted at my men. And you know what? The boys obeyed immediately. The three constables flew out the window, straight into the spears and swords of the crowd below. It was as beautiful as poetry, only instead of rhymes, pieces of bodies were flying. I tell you, it was love at first sight. That defenestration was like the signal for war I'd been waiting for all my life. At last we could stop talking and start acting, with sword, flail, and whatever was at hand. King Wenceslas IV had such a stroke that he died. Maybe it was the thought of his subjects throwing consuls out of windows like sacks of potatoes that killed him. His brother Sigismund, the accursed one, declared himself king of Bohemia, but we didn't recognize him. Sigismund was the scoundrel who betrayed Master Huss. We will never deal with such a traitor. Instead, I told him, "Come for the crown, Sigismund, but count on me to put it on your head with an axe." The Hussite revolution began, and I became one of its leaders. But I was no politician or theologian. I was a warrior. My speech was the speech of the sword and the flail, and believe me, I was very eloquent. While the Catholics relied on the old tactics of their great-grandfathers, I invented something entirely new: the chariot wall. Heavy wagons connected by chains, behind which my archers and crossbows took cover. It was a moving castle of death. Knights were used to open battles where they could show off their expensive armor like peacocks. But what if the enemy doesn't want to play by their rules? What if he hides behind chariots and shoots at them like ducks on a pond? My chariots were more than just defenses. They were mobile fortresses. Each wagon had its crew, its armament, its role. When we put them in a circle, we created an impregnable fortress. When we opened them up, they created breaches for attack, like the gates of hell. But the most important thing was not the equipment, it was the men. My warriors knew not to fear death. Whoever dies for the truth of God goes straight to paradise. That gave them a courage that no mercenary with money could have. I taught them battle songs. "Who are God's warriors" became an anthem of fear for our enemies. When thousands of throats roared this song, even the bravest knight felt his pants get tight. I planned every battle down to the smallest detail. The terrain, the weather, the enemy's morale, the direction of the wind. I took everything into account. War is not just about courage, it's about brains. And my brain was sharper than any sword and crueler than any flail. March 1420. The Battle of Sudoměř, where I showed the world what a properly led army of chopped peasants can do. We were outnumbered by Catholics with heavy cavalry. We had only chariots and an iron will to kill. I let the enemy approach our wagon wall. The knights thought they could crush us like worms with one blow. How wrong they were. When they got within range of our firearms, all hell broke loose. Crossbows, hand cannons, stones, arrows. Everything flew at the armored horsemen like a hail of death. Their horses spooked, their knights fell from their saddles, chaos spread through their ranks like a plague. And then I gave the signal to attack. "Forward, warriors of God! Show these dogs what justice is!" I shouted, and my infantrymen burst from their wagons with flails, barrels, and axes. They were no court knights, but they were wolves. Wolves who smelled blood and wanted more. I saw my flail shatter the skull of a young knight. Blood spurted out in all directions and I laughed. "This is what justice tastes like, you scoundrel," I shouted as I lunged at another enemy. The Catholics fled like rabbits from a pack of dogs, their magnificent army scattered in all directions. After the battle, I had all the prisoners executed who would not join the Hussites. War is not a game. Whoever fights against us must expect the consequences. Summer, 1420. Emperor Sigismund with a huge army besieges Prague. Crusaders from all over Europe converged to destroy us like vermin. They said we were few and doomed. I showed them how cruelly wrong they were. I stood on Mount Vitkov with a few hundred men against thousands of enemies. It seemed like suicide, but I knew what I was doing. The terrain was on our side and my men were ready to die for their faith, or better yet, kill for it. The Crusaders attacked wave after wave like a sea of blood and iron. Their armored cavalry rushed uphill, but our chariot ramparts and disciplined fire stopped them like a wall. The corpses rolled down the slope like leaves in autumn. The cruelest moment came when I led the counterattack. With flail in hand, I threw myself into the thickest of the fight like a devil from hell. Friends and enemies fell around me, but I fought like a madman. Blood spurted in all directions, and I screamed, "Die, dogs! Die for your sins!" I remember smashing the skull of a German knight. His brains splattered all over my armor, and I licked him. "Tastes good, Justice!" I laughed and lunged at another. Sigmund had to retreat. The Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire had escaped from a handful of Bohemian heretics. The victory shook all Europe. The hill was named Žižkov after me, and it damn well deserved it. After the battle, I had the bodies of the enemy driven to the dogs. Let them remember that whoever comes to our land with a sword will perish by the sword. 1421. I lost my other eye during the siege of the castle of Rabi. A shard of stone tore my cheek and blinded me forever. But you know what? I became an even more dangerous beast than before. When the doctors told me I'd never see again, I started laughing like a madman. "Blind?" I screamed. "I'm not going blind! I will see more than ever before. I will see truth, justice, and the death of my enemies." My enemies thought a blind warrior would be an easy target. How cruelly mistaken they were. The loss of sight has sharpened all my other senses. I heard every sound of battle, felt every movement of the enemy, knew everything that was going on around me. I had to learn to lead the army differently. I relied on my officers, on curiosity, on my own instincts. They described to me the terrain, the enemy's positions, the course of the battle, and I saw it all before my blind eyes clearer than ever. Blindness taught me to trust my men more than ever before. They became my eyes. I remained their brain and heart. Our connection was stronger than steel. My enemies began to call me the Blind Devil. They feared me more than ever. Blind Zizek was like the specter of death. You never knew where the blow would come from, but you knew it would come and it would be deadly. I continued to fight with even greater fury. Kutna Hora, Niemiecki Brod, Habri, everywhere I defeated the enemy. Blindness was not my weakness, it became my strength. I became a legend, feared even in my sleep. October 1424. I feel death approaching. It is no enemy on the battlefield that I can defeat with sword or flail. It is a plague that is slowly killing me. But I'm not giving up. I lie on my deathbed in Pribislav, but I think only of one thing: how to continue the fight after my death. I've called my captains together and given them their last orders. "Listen, you dogs," I shouted. "The war for God's truth must not end with my death." And then I gave them the most terrifying order in history. "I order you to make a drum out of my skin. Let that drum lead my soldiers into battle even after my death. Let the enemy tremble in fear when they hear the drum of Žižek." Imagine the horror. A drum made of human skin, booming on the battlefield. My enemies will know that even in death the blind devil is with them, that Jan Žižka fights forever. "My army shall be divided, but it shall not be broken up," I continued. Prokop Holy, Prokop Mali and my other disciples must continue the work I have begun. The Hussite wars must not end until there is justice. I die on October 11th, 1424. But I am not defeated. I have never lost a battle in my entire life. I can leave with my head held high. I have done my duty to God and country. My last words are a warning to all the enemies of Hussitism. Even in death I will fight against you. My soul will not rest until the truth of God prevails, and the drum of my skin will sound on every battlefield where justice is fought for. My life has been one long, bloody fight against injustice. I have been hard, cruel, ruthless, but just. I defended my faith and my people in the only way my enemies understood, with the power of the sword and the flail. I never lost a battle because I never fought for myself. I fought for all the oppressed, for all who sought the truth. It gave me a strength that no mercenary for money could have. I was God's warrior in the truest sense of the word. They actually made a drum out of my skin, and that drum became a legend. For many years after my death, my enemies trembled when they heard it rumble. I was immortal in the fear of my enemies. Don't forget to subscribe to an Echo of the Past channel and give a like if my bloody story has inspired you to fight for justice. History is full of warriors, but few have fought with such passion for anything more than gold and glory. The past whispers, the future listens,